The detention cell hummed with the low-frequency vibrations that the Zephyrians believed would gradually erode a prisoner's mental stability. Commander Vextal observed the human through the reinforced viewing portal, his 4 eyes narrowing, with growing frustration. For 72 standard cycles, they had subjected the creature to their most advanced psychological warfare techniques, yet the human remained infuriatingly intact. Status report. Vextal clicked in his native tongue to the interrogation specialist beside him. The subject continues to exhibit unusual responses, Commander. Interrogator Clissa replied, her voice carrying notes of bewilderment that no Zephyrian should ever express. When we activated the fear frequency generators, he began making rhythmic vocalizations. When we introduced the isolation chambers, he started conversing with the walls. When we administered the pain amplification field. What happened with the pain field? Vextal demanded. He laughed, sir, for 6 consecutive hours. Inside the cell, Marcus Chen sat cross-legged on the cold metal floor, his dark hair disheveled, but his eyes bright with an unsettling gleam. The neural disruptor crown they'd clamped around his skull flickered weakly. It had short-circuited days ago when his brain patterns proved incompatible with their technology. The restraints designed to adapt to any struggling prisoner hung loose around his wrists. Apparently, they hadn't accounted for someone who would dislocate their own joints just to see if it was possible. Day 72 of my unplanned vacation. Aboard the good ship Torquemada, Marcus announced cheerfully to the ceiling. Today's entertainment package includes another round of Let's See What Breaks the Human. Spoiler alert, guys, it's not going very well for you. The viewing portal darkened as Vextal stepped away, but Marcus knew they were still listening. They were always listening. These towering, mantis-like creatures with their clicking language and their absolute certainty that every species could be broken down into manageable psychological components. They had no idea what they were dealing with. Marcus had been a demolitions expert in the Terran Marine Corps, but more importantly, he had been raised by a grandmother who survived 3 different refugee camps, a father who worked double shifts in the mining colonies, and an older sister who had taught him that the worst thing you could do to an enemy was refuse to give them the satisfaction of your despair. You know what your problem is? Marcus called out conversationally. You guys have never met anyone genuinely insane enough to find this fun. The cell door hissed open, and Vextal strode in, his imposing 8-foot frame designed to intimidate. Behind him came 2 guards carrying neural prods, weapons that could reduce most sentient beings to gibbering wrecks with a single touch. Human, Vextal's translator rendered his clicks into mechanical English. You will provide the fleet movement patterns for Sector 7, or we will escalate our methods. Marcus looked up at him with the same expression one might wear while watching a particularly entertaining magic show. Escalate? Oh, this is the part where you threaten me with something worse than what you've already done. I love this part. It's like a really twisted choose-your-own-adventure book. We have devices that can rewrite your neural pathways, Vextal continued, his mandibles clicking with menace. We can alter your brain chemistry until you beg us for the privilege of betraying your species. See? Now that's where you made your tactical error, Marcus said, rising to his feet with a fluid motion that made all 3 aliens step back instinctively. You assumed I came into this with a functioning brain chemistry to begin with. What happened next would become legend in Zephyrian military academies, a cautionary tale about the dangers of underestimating unknown species. Marcus began to laugh. Not the broken, hysterical laughter of a mind finally cracking under pressure, but the deep, genuine laughter of someone who had just heard the funniest joke in the universe. He laughed as he grabbed the neural crown they'd never properly secured and began rewiring it with his bare hands. He laughed as he turned their own fear frequency generators into a makeshift EMP device. He laughed as he demonstrated that humans, unlike every other species the Zephyrians had encountered, could function quite well with dangerous levels of adrenaline and endorphins flooding their systems. The thing about humans, Marcus explained, cheerfully as he systematically dismantled their interrogation equipment, is that we're persistence predators. We don't run faster than our prey, we just keep coming until it dies of exhaustion. We don't have natural armor or claws or venom. We just refuse to stop until the problem is solved. and sometimes the problem is an entire alien detention facility. The guards raised their neural prods, but Marcus was already moving. 3 years of combat in low-gravity environments had taught him how to use momentum in ways that defied these aliens' understanding of physics. The first guard went down when Marcus redirected the neural prod into its own torso. The second hesitated. For the fatal instant, it took Marcus to demonstrate that human teeth, while not evolutionarily designed for combat, could still do considerable damage when applied with sufficient motivation. Vextal reached for his sidearm but froze when he saw Marcus holding the modified neural crown like a grenade with the pin already pulled. "Here's the thing about breaking prisoners," Marcus said, his voice still carrying that disturbing note of genuine amusement. "It only works if they want to remain unbroken. Me? I've been broken since I was 12 years old, and my entire family died in the Proxima Colony bombardment. The difference is, I learned to make my broken pieces sharp." The improvised electromagnetic pulse that followed would disable 17 levels of the Zephyrian command ship. By the time the emergency systems came back online, prisoner 24601 had become the ghost in their machine, a laughing, impossibly resilient human who treated their most advanced prison as a particularly challenging escape room. It would take them 6 more standard cycles to finally admit defeat and jettison him toward human space in an escape pod, along with a complete tactical database they hoped would convince his species that further conflict would be inadvisable. Marcus Chen returned to Earth as a hero, though he never quite managed to explain to the debriefing officers why he kept chuckling whenever they asked about Zephyrian psychological warfare techniques. Some chains, he knew, could only be broken from the inside out.